Hello everyone, welcome back to session 6 of this chapter called Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plants. So what did we study in session 5 of this chapter called Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plants? We studied about the post-fertilization event, that is the process of formation of an endosperm and the embryo development, followed by the study of the structure of a dicot embryo and a monocot embryo. In my today's session 6 of this chapter 2 called Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plants, what are we going to study? We are going to study about a very important part of a plant called seed, right? So you will be studying about the seed, then you will be studying about the two types of seeds, namely the endospermic seed and the non-endospermic seed. Then you will be studying about the advantages of seed in angiosperms. Then you will be studying about the viability of seeds. Then you will be studying about the fruits, types of fruits, namely the fleshy fruit and the dry fruits. Now let us move on to this session 6, starting with a very important concept called seed. So what is seed, children? Seed is nothing but a fertilized ovule. How do we define seed? Seed is defined as what? It is defined as a fertilized ovule. Seed is defined as a fertilized ovule, right? And seeds are of two types, right? How is the seed classified into two types? The seeds are classified into two types based on the nature of the endosperm. So in the last session you have studied about the process of formation of endosperm. Endosperm is nothing but the nutritive tissue which is utilized to nourish the developing zygote. Zygote will develop into an embryo. So to nourish the developing embryo, endosperm is very important. So seeds, as I said, seed is defined as what? Seed is defined as a fertilized ovule, right? Now what are the two types of seed? One is called endospermic seed, which is also called as albuminous seed. Albuminous seed. Second one is called non-endospermic seed. So what is a seed? Seed is a fertilized ovule. What are the two types of seed? One is called endospermic seed. What is the other name for it? Albuminous seed. What is the other type? The other type is called non-endospermic seed, or it is called X-albuminous. Albuminous seed. Albuminous, X-albuminous, endospermic, non-endospermic. Now let us differentiate these two type of seeds. Why this is called endospermic or albuminous seed? In endospermic seed, the seed will retain some amount of endosperm. It does not completely utilize the endosperm for the process of embryogenesis, and the remaining part of endosperm is utilized during the seed germination. So that means to say it will retain some amount of endosperm. So the residual endosperm is found in endospermic seed, which it utilizes for what? For seed germination. So completely the endosperm is not utilized for the process of embryogenesis. What is embryogenesis? The process of development of an embryo, right? What are the classical examples you are going to give for endospermic seed? For example, like the wheat, then the barley, then the maize and the sunflower, right, etc. Then what is non-endospermic seed? In this non-endospermic seed, there is no residual endosperm left over in the seed. That means to say the seed will completely utilize the endosperm for the process of embryogenesis. So there is no remaining endosperm during the process of seed germination. So no residual endosperm is left in this non-endospermic seed, whereas it is left in this particular seed called endospermic seed. So what is the example you are going to give for the non-endospermic seed? Example is pea and groundnut, etc. So what are the examples you are going to give for X-albuminous seed? Pea, groundnut, etc. Hope you have understood this concept. So what is a seed? Seed is a fertilized ovule. What are the two types of seed? Anyhow, I am going to explain in the next slide also. What are the two types of seed? Endospermic seed and non-endospermic seed. Endospermic seed is also called as what? Albuminous seed. And non-endospermic seed is called exalbuminous seed. What is the difference between endospermic seed? Endospermic seed means what? Endospermic seed is a seed where some amount of endosperm is retained, and that amount of endosperm is utilized for what? For seed germination. So the entire endosperm is not utilized during the process of embryogenesis. So what is the example you are going to give? Wheat, barley, right, etc. Then what is non-endospermic? Non-endospermic seed. What do you mean by non-endospermic seed? So there is no residual endosperm left in the seed, and it has completely utilized the endosperm for the process of embryogenesis. So there is no more endosperm left for what? For seed germination. What is the example you can give? You can give the example of pea, groundnut, etc. Hope you have understood what is a seed and what are the two types of seed. This is a very important concept which is asked in the exam for 2 marks. So what is a seed? Explain the types of seed, right, with suitable examples. But in some, occasionally in some seeds like the pepper and beet, so occasionally in some seeds, not all seeds, in some seeds like pepper and beet, the remnants of nucellus, what is nucellus? The nutritive tissue is persistent, or it will be remaining. So what do you mean by residual? The remains. So in some seeds like pepper and beet, the remnants of nucellus is persistent, and that persistent residual nucellus is called perisperm. Perisperm. So what do you mean by the perisperm? Is nothing but the residual, the remaining nucellus which is persistent in the seed is called as what? Perisperm. So the residual persistent nucellus is called perisperm. So occasionally you come across in which seed? In some seeds like pepper and beet. This is also a very important question which is asked in the exam for 1 marks. What is perisperm? So the residual persistent nucellus is called perisperm. Example, give an example if they ask. The example is of pepper and beet, right? Very important is the integuments of the ovule will harden as protective seed coats. So I have already come across in the previous session the structure of an ovule, where you come across two integuments or two envelopes. Outer is called exine and the inner is called intine, right? Now here the integuments of the ovule harden as protective seed coats, namely the outer seed coat is called testa. Here you can see in the picture, this is about a seed. Here you can see the outer coat is called testa and the inner seed coat is called tegmen. So what is testa and what is tegmen? They are nothing but the two seed coats, that is the integuments of the ovule harden to protect the seed. They form what? Protective seed coat. What are the two seed coats? One is called outer seed coat called testa and the inner seed coat called tegmen. So these are the two very important seed coats which protect the seed, right? And hope you remember the micropylar region in the ovule when you studied the structure of an ovule. So the micropylar region will remain as a small pore, right, in the seed coat. In the seed coat you come across the micropyle. You will come across the micropyle. What is micropyle? It is nothing but a small opening. Small opening. As you know, where the integument is not covered is called as what? Micropyle. You may ask a question, what is the function of this micropyle? This micropyle facilitates the supply of oxygen and water during the process of seed germination. So this micropyle is very, very important. Hope you might have come across in our daily life. When we soak the seeds, dry seeds overnight, they bloat. So all the water content that is kept in the vessel would have been absorbed by the seeds. How does the water move to the seed, inside the seed? Then it is through this micropylar region. It's a very small opening, right? So what is the very important function? What is micropyle? It's a small opening in the seed where you don't find the integument covered. This is a small pore on the seed coat which facilitates the supply of oxygen and water during the process of seed germination. As the seeds mature, right? So as the seeds mature, the capacity to retain water decreases, as well as the metabolic activity decreases, and the seed will enter into an inactive state called dormancy of seeds. What do you mean by dormancy of a seed? Capacity of a seed not to germinate. So when the seed will not germinate, it is called dormant seed. So why will it attain? So what will happen in a dormant seed? The water content will be reduced, and also the activity, the metabolic activity will be reduced. So it will enter into an inactive state. So how do you define this dormancy of a seed? Dormancy of a seed is nothing but the inactive state of embryo. And why this seed becomes dormant? When the climatic conditions are not favorable. On the onset of the favorable climatic conditions, when there is sufficient moisture, when there is sufficient oxygen, then the seed will come out of this dormancy and it will start germinating. It will start germinating. So this is one mechanism of a seed to protect itself from the adverse climatic conditions or unfavorable climatic conditions, right? So on the onset of the favorable climatic conditions, so it comes out of its dormancy. What is dormancy? An inactive state of an embryo or a seed. Inactive state where the water content is also reduced and the metabolic activity is also reduced. So on the onset of the favorable climatic conditions, it comes out of its dormancy. And why it comes out of its dormancy? It gets sufficient moisture and oxygen because the climatic conditions are favorable, and it will start germinating. So that is the concept of what you mean by dormancy of seed, right? Here you can see here the seed. Here you can see the seed which has undergone what you call seed germination into a small sapling. Here you can see a small plant is produced, right, from the seed. Now let us study about the advantages of seed. Advantages of seed, right? What is the advantage of a seed? First and foremost advantage. So seeds have a better adaptive capacity, or it will also develop certain adaptive strategies to disperse. To dispersal to where? To dispersal to new habitats, help the plant to grow in new areas. So that is the reason we come across most of the plants growing in almost all habitats. How is it possible for the plants to grow in almost all habitat? Because the seeds have an adaptive, will develop an adaptive strategy to disperse to new habitats and help the plants to grow in new habitats. That is another very important concept. So it has what? Dispersal, adaptive feature to disperse at new habitat, to new habitats, to new habitats. What do you mean by habitat? A place of dwelling, a new area, and help the plant to develop in a new area. And the other advantage of a seed in angiosperm is that as the seeds contain sufficient nutrition, so this will help the young plant. Here it will help the young plant to develop or to grow till it attains the capacity to carry on the process of photosynthesis on its own. So because the seed contains what? Sufficient reserve food material which will help the young sapling to grow and to develop till it can attain the capacity to carry on the process of photosynthesis on its own. So that is another very important advantage of a seed. So what is the second advantage? It has what? Reserve food material. Seed will have reserve food material, sufficient reserve food material. Then what is the third very important advantage of a seed? The third very important advantage of a seed is that the seed, as you know, the seed is nothing but a product of sexual reproduction which contributes to new genetic combinations in new generations, leading to what? Leading to variation. And all of you know variation is a very, very important tool for what? For evolution. So the seed will enable to what? Will help in what? Evolution. Evolution is part and parcel of this universe. So because as I said, the seeds will lead to what? New combinations in new generations, leading to what? Leading to variation. And variation is a very, very important tool for what? For evolution. So seed will lead to what? Evolution. So it's a very, very important concept to be learned. Right. So what are the advantages of seed, children? Because it has the adaptive feature or strategy, it implements certain adaptive strategies to disperse to new habitat and also help the plant to grow in a new habitat. So that is the reason why we can find plants in almost all habitats. Then because the seeds contain what? Contain sufficient reserve food material, so that will enable the young sapling to grow till it attains the capacity to carry on the process of photosynthesis on its own, right? Now what is the third very important advantage? Because the seed, as you know, it is a product of sexual reproduction which will contribute to new genetic combinations in new generations, leading to what? Leading to variation. And variation is what? Variation is a very, very important tool for what? For evolution. Hope you can see in this diagram how the seed germinates. So you can see a small radicle. So what are the two very important parts you come across in a seed? That is you have studied in the structure of an embryo, where you come across the plumule and the radicle. Plumule will develop into what? Plumule will develop into a shoot system, and the radicle will develop into a shoot system. This is the plumule. So this is what here you can see the plumule. Plumule is what? Plumule is nothing but the shoot tip. What is radicle? Radicle is nothing but the root tip. Right. So this part, the part which is above the soil is called as the shoot system, and the part which is below the soil, it is called as the root system. Right. Hope you have understood the advantages of seed. Moving on to a very important concept called viability of seeds. What do you mean by viability? Capacity of a seed to remain alive for a longer time and to germinate is called viability. But do you think the viability of seeds is same in all the seeds? No. In all the species? No. The period of viability to germinate in seed varies from a seed to seed. So it may not be of the same duration. In some species, the seeds lose viability within a few months. After that, they will not be alive, right? So you can understand this concept of viability of seeds with two very good examples. So what is viability of seed? Capacity of a seed to remain alive, right? For a maybe for a longer duration or for a shorter duration. As I said, the period of viability is varying from a seed to seed, and in few species the seeds lose what? Viability within a few months. As I said, you can understand this concept of viability of seeds very nicely with two very good examples. Moving on to the first example, as I said, seeds of large number of species live for several years. Not for 1 or 2 months, it can live for several years. You can see this beautiful picture and the seeds here, right? So what is this picture? Blue flowers, what you can see in the picture is nothing but of the flowers of Lupinus arcticus. What is so speciality of this Lupinus arcticus then? This is one of the oldest viable seed. It is one of the oldest viable seed that was excavated from which region? Excavated from Arctic tundra, and the seeds of this plant called Lupinus arcticus germinated and flowered after an estimated record of 10,000 years of dormancy. See, they were dormant for how many years? For 10,000 years. That means what? They remained inactive, but they were alive for how many years? 10,000 years. So after 10,000 years, the seeds germinated and flowered. So what a beautiful plant this is, right? This is a classical example for viability of seed, right? So this is the oldest viable seed of what? Lupinus arcticus, excavated from which region? From Arctic tundra, and the seeds germinated and flowered after an estimated record of how many years? 10,000 long years. Here you can see in the picture the seeds of Lupinus arcticus. So these seeds were dormant for how many years? For 10,000 years, and after 10,000 years they germinated and flowered. You can see the beautiful flowers of this plant called Lupinus articus. This is a very good example for to learn about the concept called viability of seed. So this is also asked in the example. Name the oldest viable seed. Which is the oldest viable seed? That is of lupin called Lupinus articus. It was excavated from which region? Arctic tundra. And the seeds germinated and flowered after an estimated record of how many years of dormancy? 10,000 years of dormancy. Hope you have understood this very important example to understand the concept of viability of seeds. Now let us study one more example. Hope you can see this picture, right? What is this picture all about? This is the picture of a date palm called Phoenix dactylifera, right? And here this plant called, the seeds of this plant was viable for how many years? 2000 years. So this seed was viable for how many years? That seed, Lupinus articus, was viable for how many years? 10,000 long years. And the recent record of 2000 year viable seed is of the date palm called Phoenix dactylifera, which was discovered during the archaeological excavation at King Herod's palace near the Dead Sea. So these two are the very good examples. All of you might have come across this date palm. So dates, a very nice fruit called date, right? So which is highly nutritious and contains more of iron content. And this plant called date palm, the seed was viable for how many years? 2000 long years, and later on it germinated and produced the plant, right? So these two examples are very, very important examples to study to understand the concept of viability of seed. Hope you have understood the two examples. One is of Lupinus articus, the other one is of date palm called Phoenix dactylifera. Already I have explained about perisperm. What is perisperm? Occasionally in some seeds like the pepper, the black pepper and the beet, there are remnants of the residual nucellus, or the remnants of nucellus is persistent. You can come across the remainings of the nucellus more prominent, and such what you call the residual remnants of the residual persistent nucellus is called perisperm. As I said, this is asked for 1 mark question. So what is perisperm? The residual persistent nucellus in a seed is called perisperm. Example is black pepper and beet. Hope you have understood this concept, right? Moving on to the next concept of this session is about, as I already explained about the seed. Seed is defined as what? Fertilized ovule. What are the two types of seeds you come across? One is called the endospermic seed. The second one is called non-endospermic seed. What are the two types of seed you come across? One is called endospermic seed, the other one is called non-endospermic seed. And what is endospermic seed? Already you have learned. Endospermic seed is a seed where some amount of endosperm is retained, which is utilized for the process of seed germination. Whereas in case of non-endospermic seed, the endosperm is completely utilized for the process of embryogenesis. So there is no more endosperm left out during the process of seed germination. Here what are the example? Wheat, barley, etc. Here pea and groundnut, etc. Right. Moving on to the next very important concept called fruit. Fruit is what? You can also call it as a product of post-fertilization of the ovary, right? Post-fertilization of the ovary is called as what? Fruit. Or you can call it, a simple definition is what? Ripened ovary. Fruit is nothing but a ripened ovary. And the fruit wall, what we call it as the ovary wall, is called as pericarp, right? So what is pericarp? Pericarp is nothing but the fruit ovary wall, you can call, and this pericarp is divided into 3 more layers. It is divided into 3 more layers. The outermost is called epicarp, middle called mesocarp, and the inner called endocarp. So this pericarp is again divided into how many layers? The 3 layers. What are the 3 layers called? Epicarp, the outermost, middle, mesocarp, and inner endocarp. As I said, the wall of the fruit developed by the wall of the ovary is called as pericarp. Hope you have understood what is a fruit. Fruit is a ripened ovary, and the ovary wall is called as what? Pericarp. And the pericarp is divided into how many layers? 3 layers. What are the 3 layers? Outer epicarp, middle mesocarp, and inner endocarp, right? Now moving on to the types of fruits. Again in my next session also I'll be discussing about this fruits, like what do you mean by true fruits, what do you mean by false fruits, right? Now what is this types of fruits? Based on the nature of the pericarp, whether the pericarp is fleshy or dry, we classify the fruits into two types. What are the two types of fruits? One is called the fleshy fruits, the other one is called as the dry fruits. So what is the basis for classifying the fruits into two types? Based on the nature of the pericarp. What is pericarp? Pericarp is nothing but the ovary wall, which is divided into three layers: epicarp, mesocarp and endocarp. If the pericarp is fleshy, we call such fruit as fleshy fruits. If the pericarp is dry, then we call it as what? Dry fruits, right? Now let us study about these two fruits in the next slide. As I said, fleshy fruit is what? Their pericarp is fleshy. What are the examples you are going to give for fleshy fruits then? Orange, guava, mango, etc. Why do we call these fruits as fleshy fruits? Because the pericarp is fleshy and juicy, right? Hence we call it as what? We call it as what? The fleshy fruits. What do you mean by dry fruits? Dry fruits means what? The pericarp is dry. Example, groundnut and mustard. Hope you have understood all the concepts what we have discussed in today's session, right? In today's session we discussed about the seed, then what are the two types of seeds. We discussed about the two types of seeds, namely endospermic seed and non-endospermic seed. Then we studied about the advantages of seeds in angiosperms. Then we also learnt about a very important concept called dormancy of seed. What do you mean by dormancy of a seed? Capacity of a seed to remain inactive, or the inactive state of a seed is called dormancy of a seed. Why will a seed will undergo dormancy? In order to overcome the unfavorable or adverse climatic conditions. On the return of the favorable climatic conditions, it will germinate back, right? So we have also studied about the viability of seed. What is viability of a seed? Capacity of a seed to remain alive, maybe for few months or for longer duration, or even for many several years. Learned about the viability of seed with two very good classical examples, one of Lupinus articus, the other one of date palm called Phoenis dactylifera. Then you studied about a fruit. What is a fruit? Fruit is nothing but a ripened ovary, right? And what are the two types of fruit you have studied? Fleshy fruits and dry fruit. What was the basis for studying the fruits into two types? Based on the nature of the pericarp. So what is pericarp? The ovary wall of the fruit. Outermost layer of a fruit, we call it as a pericarp, which is divided into three layers: outer epicarp, middle mesocarp and inner endocarp, right? So the remaining concepts, what are the final concepts of this chapter, very important chapter called sexual reproduction in flowering plants, will be completed in the coming session. So in the coming completing of this chapter called sexual reproduction in flowering plants, what are the other concepts we are going to study? That is about the true fruits and false fruits. Why the fruits are called as true fruits, why they are called as false fruits. Then you will be studying about the seedless fruits. So how do we get the seedless fruits? What are they? About the parthenocarpic fruits. So one concept is what? The final concept of this chapter is what? True fruits and false fruit. Next is what? Parthenocarpic fruits. What do you mean by parthenocarpic fruits and what are the examples? And a very important phenomenon called apomixis and polyembryony. Hope you have understood all the concepts what we have studied in today's session. So in the coming sessions, we'll deal with the final concepts of this chapter called sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Till then, goodbye and thank you.